On the bench today we have an Alinco DX-70. Actually, I think this is, what the heck is this? Look down at the box. It's a DX-70TH version. Customer sent this in. It's having intermittent problems. You'll power it up, it'll work for an undetermined amount of time, and your audio and transmit goes away. Now the front, at least what I've been experiencing here, did experience it several times. The front panel, everything still works. It's just no receive, no transmit. There's no audio. I initially thought it might be a speaker or maybe a dirty speaker jack on the back, because I'd plug a speaker in, an external speaker in, and it would work. And I'd unplug it, and it didn't seem to work, and it would stop working, and I'd plug a speaker into the back, and it would work again. So it's like, well, I can understand the receive portion. No audio getting, if there's no audio coming out, you're not going to know, but that still shouldn't affect transmit. So I popped the top cover. Now, even before I took the cover off, you'd just barely squeeze, which is what the customer said. You'd squeeze the front of the radio. So just squeeze. Basically, you didn't have to squeeze it. You could just push on the cover, the face plate, this piece, the interconnect piece of plastic here, the top cover, and it would come right back. So I took the top cover off, and then I couldn't get it to malfunction again. Of course, why not? That's just my luck when it comes to stuff. And it's kind of hard to diagnose a problem if it won't malfunction when the cover's off. But it finally did start to malfunction again. Now again, I thought I was having a speaker problem, because I'd just barely touched this thing, and it would come right back. So I plugged in an external speaker. Now, to take this apart, of course, I'm sure if you own one of these, the front panel comes off of these, obviously. You can't get your microphone attached or detached without taking the faceplate off, because it screws on here, but the cable passes through this little piece here, which is kind of nice, because that leaves the weak point of any microphone plug, which is usually this connection right here. It's shrouded in plastic. Bad thing, a lot of microphone jacks and cords won't work with this. But that's another story. So in any case, take your top cover off. Now, what I've found is it's the coax cables, apparently, is what's the problem. I've cleaned 3 of them. I'm just getting ready to do the 4th, and I thought, well, I'll just do a quick video on this to show this. So, disassembly's fairly simple. Take your top cover off. That's fairly obvious. Screws along the side, the back, and the front here. The front, or the top cover, just pops right off. Now, you're going to find 2 brackets that you need to remove. This is what the speaker actually sets on. And then there's a front bracket that goes right underneath here from left to right. So there's a screw in each side of this. Now, you need to take this one off first. This is, as a matter of fact, you can see from the black, the little foam ring there, that's actually what the speaker sets on. And they actually interconnect like that. So, and then this part here screws down to that hole right there. So 4 screws. Take these 2 screws out, pull this bracket out. Now you'll need to unplug your speaker, because the speaker plug, actually the wiring, the speaker sets on here, and that oval right there, half moon, is actually a cutout for the speaker terminal jack there. And plug your speaker back in, or you don't have to, but if you're troubleshooting, once you take that out, you can plug your speaker back in. Then take this little bracket out. Now, what it looks like the problem are these interconnect coax cables. So there's 4 of them up here. This one, this one, this one, and then there's another one, which is the last one I was getting ready to do. Now, I don't know where this radio's been stored. It smells like mothballs. No joke, not trying to be funny. It does. It smells like mothballs. If I didn't know any better, I'd say there's probably a few mothballs rolling around in here. Don't know if it's been stored in a closet or something. But I don't know if that's caused any oxidation problems, possibly, on these connectors. But that appears to be the problem, because I'd finally, once I let it actually turned on with the cover off and on for a while, the problem started to pop up, rather frequently. And I'd just touch a cable, and it would cut out. Well, I cleaned that one, and then I started to do it again. It's one of those, you just barely touch just touch the board, and it would come right back. So I've cleaned the other 2, and then I thought I had it fixed. I personally, honestly, forgot there was, because I hadn't looked in from the backside. There's another coax cable hiding down in here. So that's why I had to then remove this second bracket, because it's kind of trapped. But you can see it's black because they're silver plated connectors, okay? And you can see it's kind of black and grungy looking. Now, the only part that actually goes down into the socket is the shiny part here, but even that, especially the center conductor, is, yeah, it's starting to get some discoloration. So that's where you want to use your little fiberglass burnishing brushes, okay? They're just soft little fiberglass bristles in there, and that's what I use to clean them. Don't need to use any chemicals to clean it. As a matter of fact, if I go up here on this dirty part, you can see how it shines that back up. And that's all I do. I go around that. Just make sure that's nice and shiny and clean so it looks like it's brand new. Now you can get these fiberglass brushes in different stiffness. Some of these things are, honestly, they're harsher than a wire brush. I mean, they're really, really bad. These have the really soft, fluffy bristles. Like, honestly, these are made in China, but I get them on eBay. They're cheap. They work great. They come in a pack with like 1 or 2 replacement brushes. Actually, I think nope, there's still plenty in there. But yeah, you can see, I mean, no chance of stabbing myself with fiberglass bristles from these, because these are really, really flexible. But if you ever get the stiff ones, you really have to be careful of those things. Because the really harsh ones, like if you get the Russia racers, which are really good, don't get me wrong, they're great for cleaning stuff, but the bristles on those things, they're shards of glass. I mean, these are glass too, but they're really, really small, and I've never impaled myself with these. But the bristles off the Russia racers, oh my God, you get some of those things embedded in your finger, you'll be bitching for a week or two trying to pull those little microscopic shards of glass out of your fingers. So, grab a new chem wipe here. Tiny bit of alcohol. Before I reassemble this, I want to clean, because I've been touching it with my fingers now. So just in case I left any residue on there, put a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on a chem wipe. Just wipe that a little bit. Make sure I get any. Now I'm not worried about the top part because that doesn't make any actual connection. But the actual connection part, that's what I'm worried about. So make sure all the oils from my fingers are removed, because we don't want it to corrode again. And now I'm actually going to use a little bit of deoxit shield. Now this is the S100, which is just nothing but shield. It has no solvent in there, so it's 100% product. And I'm going to apply a little bit of that to that, because that's what this stuff does. It prevents oxidation and corrosion from happening again, so it environmentally seals it. And stuff works great. And I like these little, you can get it in spray cans, but or actually I refill this bottle. Where in the heck is it? Yeah, there we go. I buy it in the bigger bottle and then refill the little fingernail brush bottle whenever that gets low, because it's expensive buying it in these little bottles. But for the average user, the little small nail polish bottle will probably last you your lifetime. I probably fill this twice a year, and I use that a lot. But that's it. It's now been cleaned. Like I say, make sure you clean off, if you touch that, make sure you clean the oils off from your fingers. I'd suggest, it's not required to do that, but I suggest applying a little bit of deoxit shield to it, or whatever your favorite, anti-corrosion product might be. Now, one thing I will say, when you're removing these cables, do not grab the cable. For God's sakes, do not grab the cable. I'll say it a third time. Do not grab the cable and pull it out. If you do, you could rip the cable out of the back of that connector. They're fragile little connectors, okay? Always use something like needle nose pliers. You'll see how they're crimped here at the back. They have a little ear sticking out each side. That's what I do to remove them. I grab one of those ears and unplug it like that. So you always want to make sure you grab it by the body of the connector, not the coax cable. I see so many of these things that have been ripped out. The plug's still in the socket and the cable's pulled out, because somebody did just that. They grabbed a coax cable, gave it a yank. Yeah, it's not like it's a, standard coax connector, like an RF connector on the back of a radio, where they're threaded, this outer piece is threaded onto the outer shield on the cable. Yeah, it's just a light little crimp, and that's a tiny connector, so be really careful with that. So now all I have to do is And again, I don't want to touch it now especially. It's not so much, I just don't want to touch the tip of that, because I don't want to, like I say, get any oils from my finger and whatnot on there. Oh, this one's a tricky one. Definitely don't make these easy. Come on, little guy. This thing's just going to be difficult, isn't it? Come on. Oh my God, really? Of course, I'm trying to work around the camera and this isn't working too well. I'm actually standing up, leaning over top of the camera and the swing arm that it's attached to. Oh, for Pete's sakes, I'll have to do that off camera. I just can't get that in there on camera. The camera's just plain in the way. But that's it. So if you have one of these radios, and it's not just these radios, most ham radios for decades actually have used these type of coax connectors. They work great. I mean, hell, there's even, I mean, you can even get into like the President's, model of radios, like the HR 2510s, the President Lincolns. They use these type. Kenwood uses them. I mean, everybody seems to use these connectors. Just like I say, be careful. Don't yank on the cable. Always pull it out by grabbing the housing or the body of it. Just a quick clean off. Now, if you don't have one of these, you can clean it off, whatever you have. Just don't use anything too abrasive. You don't want to wear through all the silver. They're silver plated for a reason, because that gives it a really good, has very good conductivity. But, clean it off. Even just, honestly, something like a chem wipe, if you rub it a couple times with that, the oxidation layer is so thin on there, it's not that bad. It's just enough to where it does start to become intermittent. Just rub around there with something like this a couple times. The paper of these chem wipes, or like a normal tissue, is abrasive enough, honestly, to polish it. Like I say, make sure you clean off any oil residue from your fingers, because you don't want the thing to corrode within a year. I suggest adding some shield product, prevent it, put it back together. And like I say, it was obvious it was that, because I could just barely, once I discovered that was them, I just barely touched these things, and the receive and transmit would come back. You'd wait a little bit, it would go away. You'd barely touch the cable, and it would come right back. So that's obviously what's causing the problem in this. So I hope that helps. If you have one of these things, that might save you from having to send your radio out to get repaired. That's something that pretty much anybody can do. All you need basically is a screwdriver, little small screwdriver. That's it. There's no other special tools needed other than a pair of pliers or something to grab these connectors, like I recommend. Easy repair should only take you a few minutes. Now, finding the problem a lot of times on stuff like this can be tricky, because, like I say, especially this one, because as soon as I took the cover off, it worked fine. And I couldn't get it to screw up for quite a while. I'm pushing and probing and prodding and trying to find a problem, and then all of a sudden it started to do it. So I hope that'll help somebody else, and they won't have to sit there and go through the same thing I did trying to repair this. So there you go. There's just a quick down and dirty on how to clean your connectors for all the coax cables on an Alinco DX-70. And I'll get this thing put back together, cleaned up a little bit, a little bit of dust and dirt in there. I'll clean out some of the dust under the covers, the PA unit, and we can get this headed back to the customer.